Well, welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host as always, Jeff Stormer. This week on the show, I am joined by Luke Jordan for a game of Grand Guignol. Grand Guignol is a role-playing game of crooked alleys and foggy squares, charged touches and words left unsaid, lavish parties and faceless crowns, bloody hands, dangerous smiles, and the darkness without and within asking what lurks in the secret corner of your heart. It is a belonging outside belonging role-playing game of doomed Victorian heroes battling against supernatural terror in a larger-than-life mythic Victorian London, as seen in stories such as Dracula, Frankenstein, Penny Dreadful, and the like. This game is so beautiful and cool and spooky and evocative. I really love playing it. I really think you're going to enjoy listening to it. The game is just dripping with flavor, and I just think it's so absolutely cool. I really hope that you go and check it out. The game is one of two horror-themed belonging outside belonging games by Luke Jordan that are currently crowdfunding on BackerKit. You should go check them both out. Grand Guignol and Harvest, they're just both extraordinarily cool games. It is a historical horror double feature about monstrosity, community, and the Gothic. You can find more information and the link to the Harvest and Grand Guignol BackerKit in the show notes. Now, two quick notes before I dive in. One, this game does include themes of messy gender politics in Victorian England, namely references and descriptions of homophobia and transphobia. Listener discretion is advised. And two, a shout out to our newest backers on Patreon, friends of the show, J-Docs for Rose and Kevin Gallagher. Thank you so much for supporting the show, as well as all the games that I make and the other stuff that I do. Patreon backers get access to early releases of episodes, raw audio of episodes, exclusive episodes of Party of One, and side series such as Party of None, our solo play role-playing game series. You can find all of that on Patreon at patreon.com/JeffStormer. And with all that said, let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me.
Thanks, future me. I am so very excited to be sitting down with Luke Jordan. Luke, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so pumped for today's recording. This is going to be so much fun. I've been looking forward to this all day. So at the top of our episode, why don't you let our lovely listeners at home know about anything you've got going on, and in particular, what we are playing this week, as well as anything else you've got that you want them to know about.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Luke. My pronouns are they and them. I was a professional GM for children many years ago. Now I am a game designer part-time. We are here to play a game of mine called Grand Guignol. It is a game about the London Gothic and queer community and fraught intimacy and being spooky gay monsters.
That's a pitch. That's you've laser, like you've targeted it and you've hit your target.
I've grabbed
and I'm very,
the
very
listeners
excited.
by the scruff of the neck and said to them, "This is a game for you."
You've grabbed me by the scruff of my neck and said this is a game for you, and I personally appreciate it. I'm really, really excited. So, so give us the pitch of the game.
Yeah, so I think there is no better way to do this than just to read you the introduction of the game. Grand Guignol gives us crooked alleys and foggy squares, charged touches and words left unsaid, lavish parties and faceless crowds, bloody hands and dangerous smiles, and always the darkness without and within asking, what lurks in the secret corners of your heart?
What a great intro. Like,
yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta sit quietly when you hear an intro and go, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, so the kind of the core premise and kind of, I guess, framing conceit of this game is this is a game about telling secret histories about queer people just like us who we know lived lives and loved and found community even in the kind of repressive structures of Victorian-era London. And it's also a game about the ways in which the Victorian Gothic is deeply, deeply anxious about gender and the correct performance of sexuality, and that is kind of the underlying, terroir behind a lot of the kind of monstrosity that it imagines. And so this game is just like, I ain't never heard of subtext. Let's lean in. Sure.
Love it. You're speaking my language. And so, I believe what we are going to do is we are going to imagine London, create our characters, and then we're going to have a few spooky occasions between the two of us.
That is very much the plan. Yeah. So we're gonna kind of start at the top and work our way down as we imagine the world. So we begin with what does our idiosyncratic version of London look like? Then we drop down a couple of layers to the monstrous forces, bigger than humans and grander than humans that shape the city, our setting elements. And then we drop down another layer and we're going to make some little blobos.
Love that. Love it, love it, love it.
So, we have two decisions that we make about our London. One of them is about aesthetics, because it is important to know how to imagine the good mind picture. And then the other one is we choose some stuff that people in London are worried about. And this lets us plant the seeds of some spooky stuff and also some more real life. This game has a lot of interest in poverty and industrialization, so there's some stuff about that too.
Yeah.
So I guess to start with, Jeff, we've got a pick list of 20 odd options here about aesthetics. Which ones leap out at you?
So the first one that leaps out at me in a really big way is looming factories. There is something about this aesthetic of Industrial Revolution as overwhelming horror landscape is very compelling to me. This idea of factories and warehouses and streets and smokestacks that are high into the sky, pumping things out at all times. There's something very compelling to me about that aesthetic, and that being the spaces that we're playing in. What about you?
That makes a lot of sense to me. I might contrast that with, I think, winding streets.
Mm-hmm.
I think there needs to be somewhere that can be loomed over and from which you can see the factories.
Yeah, that feels, yep. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I like that. I'm also thinking, what else feels good to me? I'm gonna go taverns and theaters. I love a good penny dreadful. I love a good this is a looming thing. I think a lot, obviously, Jeff Stormer pointing at a butterfly. Is this ordinary life in a weird environment? And there's something about the theater as a space of the theater as a source of horror is obviously the most Jeff Stormer thing that I could pitch, and sometimes we have to lean into our bullshit.
Look, I don't think I've ever been in a game of this where someone hasn't picked theaters and taverns. The game is named after the Grand Guignol, which was a theatrical movement. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, truly.
All right. Fantastic. So we can lock that in. I like to contrast. I feel like we've gone very urban so far. So for contrast, I'm going to go Tangled Parks. I think that is a fun place that our characters could either go on a date or one of our characters could be menaced by a monster.
That feels good. I like that a lot.
And then that gives us enough. But if there is another pick that we think would be good to kind of round it all out, we are allowed to do it. And also, I'm not a fucking cop. If we want to pick 7 things, who cares?
I'm going to make one more pick. I think that I've only got one more thing. I really love electric streetlights. The effect that pops into my head and what I'm, and really the aesthetic that really comes into my head that ties a lot of these things together is this almost chiaroscuro, heavy contrast of a streetlight blasting, long shadows onto the streets, this very bright contrast energy that is somewhat inescapable no matter where you go. It is almost like there is a series of spotlights along the streets across the factories. There seems like there's always a spotlight that is just putting you in focus at the wrong moment. And I think that's kind of my unifying aesthetic pitch over everything that we've described.
Sin City, but make it British.
British Sin City is a very good reference point, unfortunately.
Yeah. I will yes and you here. Because I think, as anyone who's been in theater knows, the only thing that makes stage lights better is the smoke machine. So I'm also going to pick choking mist to give the light something to really
That feels
cling
good.
to volumetrically.
I think that feels good. I like that a lot. I think this is a good list. I don't know that there's anything else on here that I would want to pull in, so I'm also gonna.
All right. Well done, team. We have an image of London, its physical landscape. The question is then, what does the, imaginative landscape of the London citizen look like? What kind of things do we think folks are worried about?
This is a good list. I'm just going to read through all of them because it is very, very exciting and compelling to me. We have rent just keeps rising. There's a sequence killer on the loose. There's a sequence killer on the loose. The Thames is flooding the slums. A ship docked yesterday with all her crew missing. A rogue priest is preaching the end of days is nigh. The local factory is replacing jobs with machines. Bloodless bodies keep turning up in the sewers. There's a ghost haunting the back alleys. Someone saw witch fire out on Blackheath Moor. Bakers are cutting their flour with plaster and chalk. Everyone's sharing dreams of London in ruins, and there's a riot coming any day now. So the first one that really, really jumps... Is there one that jumps to your head before I throw my pitch out?
I mean, we picked Tangled Parks. And so someone saw Witchfire out on Blackheath Moor feels like a really logical...
It does.
Next step from there.
I'm also going to throw in Everyone is Sharing Dreams of London in Ruins.
Yeah, sick.
That's just very sick, very compelling to me. Is there any others that you want to grab at?
I'm going to lean into the tragic, real history of poverty in London.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, the Bakers thing, that's true.
That felt true?
Yeah, that was a historical practice, and it fucking sucked.
I was moments away from picking that just because I was like, we've got two very good kind of supernatural options, and having a completely non-magical, ordinary, just, kind of awful thing happening is very nice contrast to that.
Yeah.
I want one. I'm trying to decide if I want one more. I would like one more non-magical option, and I'm trying to decide which one is really a good energy. I'm going to say the Thames is flooding the slums. We didn't necessarily pick anything related to, this is going to be one of the first games I've played in a long time where the ominous docks are not a thing. So I have to represent them in some capacity, and I feel like flooding, there being frequent floods is a good... There's almost an element of creeping horror to it, of areas are flooding and it just happens and then continues to happen.
Yeah, there's a really good kind of sense of background anxiety.
Background anxiety is exactly the way to put it. It's just there are periodically you just hear about a neighborhood that has flooded, and people show up to help it, but also it's just
no one's gonna fucking give us the infrastructural funding to fix it. So what the fuck are we gonna do about it?
Yeah, I love that.
Oof.
I realized I deleted the rest of them without asking if there were any other that you wanted.
That's perfectly all right. That seems like a pretty good set of choices to me.
All right, so we've got... All right, I feel pretty good about this. So, we had talked before we got on mic that we are going to define a few of our setting elements, but not all 6 of our setting elements. Do you have an idea of which elements you want in play?
I have some thoughts. Because I think the choices that we've made lean us in some directions.
Okay, sure.
I think, we've got a park. I think we've got Witchfire. So I think the Wicker Ways, which is the setting element all about kind of pre-industrial terror.
Love that.
And kind of folk tradition. It's like a little bit of harvest in Grand Guignol. I think that's a really obvious pick. I think you've lent really hard into the modernity and industrialization of it all. So I think the specter of modernity is a really obvious, just gimme. Yeah. And I think we should make that obvious choice. I then think we've got, we either have a forking choice to make, or we just say fuck it and we do 4 instead of 3. Because I think with your pick of everyone is sharing the same dream of London in ruins, I think that could point towards the embrace of night.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think the salt of the earth and the kind of, everyday quotidian Londoner is a thing that probably it would behoove us to give some mechanical support to as well.
Yeah. I'm saying fuck it, let's do 4.
Let's fucking go.
I think that's the way to go. I think that we'll cruise through it and we'll make some choices, but I think that having all of those things represented is going to be good for the story that we want to tell.
Yeah, we'll leave vampire capitalism and the consequences of our decisions on the table.
We can always come back to it later. We can come back next time. Fuck. I mean, all of them are very good.
I think, look,
all right.
Focused palette. Focused palette.
We've made a good focused palette here today, and I'm very excited. So, do we just want to start with the Wicker Ways and work our way down?
Yeah, I think that probably is the way to go. And in terms of, the way this game frames setting elements, I might just read briefly from the section.
Sure.
Monstrous forces are at work in London these days, shaping our histories in ways both overt and unseen. Vast and impersonal, their influence on the city is inescapable. They can be overlooked, but never ignored. Named, but never predicted. Defied, but never defeated. We live our lives in their shadows, and pray in vain that their passage will leave us unmarked. In Guignol, we call these forces setting elements.
That's really good. That's very good.
For anyone who might not be familiar with Belonging Outside Belonging games, this is basically kind of what in a GM'd game would be authority over the setting, parceled out into little bundles, and then at any time one of us can kind of claim one of them, pick it up, give it voice, make its influence felt in the world, and it will shape the conversation in certain ways, and then eventually we let it slip from our grasp, surrender our claim on it, and, play our character again.
Love it. So, our first setting element, the Wicker Ways. Before science, before Christ, before cities, nature reigns supreme. She sent plenty and famine, storms and sunshine, blessings and curses, good years and bad ones too. Science might have remade the world, but the old ways are as potent as ever. So, the principles here are showing the precarity, wisdom, and freedom of pre-industrial life, giving the old ways sharp edges, grounded materiality, and a vast inchoate awareness, and asking compelling questions built on the answers that others give. So, we are going to talk about the things that nature demands. Which of these options stands out to you as compelling?
Ooh, I am gonna pick 2.
Okay.
And I am going to tangle them together, and I think they also come back to your dream. I think nature demands London's fall and also overgrowth and expansion.
Sure.
I think if nature had its way, the parks would spread and devour the city, and everything would be the way it was back, before Christ, when London was just a little, fort garrison on the river.
I'm also going to choose 2 that I think are also tangled together, and that is Remembrance and Odd Terror.
Oh, yeah.
It is, this is how it was once. You look at these massive factories that loom high in the sky. It used to be the forest that you were afraid of.
Yeah.
It is time to go back to that.
Stolen power. Yeah.
Yes. That's good. This is great. This is good energy.
This is good vibes.
Vibes are good.
And we will bring the Wicker Ways into play to give voice to the old ways, to offer bounty in disquieting forms, and to snare the characters in nature's thorns. And we are all good with that for now. As any vignette begins where the Wicker Ways are going to appear, we've got a couple of choices that we can make to kind of characterize it in that scene. But for now, we are... Well, actually, Jeff, here's a question. Do we want to foreshadow the kind of moves that the Wicker Ways can make, or do we want to keep that a secret?
I think we'll keep it a secret. Let's keep it a secret. We'll bring it up when it comes up.
Wait and find out.
So talk to us about the Spectre of Modernity.
The Spectre of Modernity. There has been a spirit haunting the streets of London in recent days. Mightier than an angel and more terrible than any apparition, it has gripped the city with a fever that never sleeps. The modern age is here at last, and the world will never be the same. Our principles here are to explore the parallels between science ordering the world and industry ordering jobs and lives, to show how modernity crushes those who can't be made productive, and to ask compelling questions and build on the answers others give. And then to kind of characterize the ways in which early modern, the beginning of the modern project was a kind of contested space of ideas that could have gone in a bunch of ways, some of them kind of maybe more utopian than the way that we all ended up going here in the London we really live in. We're going to choose 3 competing aims that the modern age and the modern project have. What do we think is a fun little triangle?
The first piece of this triangle, especially having come from the Wicker Way, is absolute truth. That's a fun point in the triangle that is going to clash with these other aims, but also clash really hard with the other setting elements that we've built.
In which case, I am going to add civility as another leg of the tripod, because those things are not compatible.
No, they are not at all.
Maybe it's too obvious, Jeff. I feel like there's a really direct third leg of this wobbly triangle. It's profit.
Sure. Yeah.
Profit's not compatible with either of those.
I'll buy that.
Oh, capitalism. Disgusting.
It turns out the real enemy was capitalism. Who could have seen this twist coming?
In a game by Luke Jordan? No way.
Who could have seen such a twist?
Oh, incredible.
So we are going to bring this into play to give force and direction to modernity, offer them the chance to reshape the future, and crush them under the weight of progress.
Yeah. Just cheerful stuff.
Good stuff. Good fun. The vibes are fun.
The vibes are rancid, but...
And speaking of rancid vibes, we have the embrace of night. The darkness is generous and kind and comforting. It hides us from those we fear, it holds us close when we are lonely, and whispers that it's okay to be the monster that the crowd names us, because we're special. It's been waiting just for us, and it has such plans. The principles here are exploring the seduction of acceptance, purpose, and vengeance, giving the darkness terrible goals, brooding charisma, and a vast emotional landscape, and asking compelling questions and building on the answers that other gives. So, we are going to now strike out what the embrace does not seek.
Yeah, so by default, it seeks all of the following. Reverence, brutal honesty, obedience, uncomfortable intimacy, defiance, bloodshed, the overthrow of normalcy, corruption, pretty excuses, and revelation. And now we're going to remove some because that's really too many to be usable.
Sure.
So what don't we think it vibes with?
I like immediately what jumps out to me about the embrace, about what I think I want to strike out is pretty excuses. I really like the sense. This is an embrace because I'm going back and reading, and the idea of like become the monster that you have been labeled is a sense of like, embrace that part of you, embrace what they have labeled as monstrous, and the idea that is shedding excuses is very compelling. Like, that's very seductive and very compelling.
You don't need to apologize. You don't need to tell yourself you didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
You did have a choice, and you made a choice, but that's okay.
But that's good. It's not even okay. That's good, right?
Yeah.
It is that you've made the choice. You made the choice. Celebrate the fact that you made the choice that you made.
Similar logic. I think I'm going to suggest that we strike through obedience. I don't think the Embrace of Night needs that from you.
That feels good.
All right, what's left? So it does want reverence. That feels... I could take or leave reverence. I think it definitely wants brutal honesty.
It does.
It definitely wants uncomfortable intimacy.
Yep.
It definitely wants defiance of society. Whether it wants defiance of itself maybe depends on the answer about reverence.
Mm-hmm.
Bloodshed, overthrow normalcy, corruption. Corruption, I think I could probably also take or leave.
I think I want to strike reverence and corruption. I don't feel. I feel like there's a sense of like it's almost a sense of like corruption feels almost too.
That's the version that does want pretty excuses because it's leading you astray.
And it almost feels too considered. You know what I mean? Like and I think kind of reverence is, maybe I'm going back on reverence. I like, cause corruption to me is too considered. Whereas I think what we're kind of pushing towards is a sort of chaos, like freedom of chaos sort of thing, right?
There's like a hedonism and a
hedonism's a good word for it. Yeah, it's
kind of energy going on here. Yeah.
Aren't you tired of being nice? Don't you want to just go ape shit?
Yeah, exactly. In which case, maybe how about we bring reverence back but cut bloodshed?
That feels good.
It's like violence it could take or leave. It just wants you to cut loose.
Yeah. Violence could and probably will come from that, but it's not seeking bloodshed.
That's not the point. Yeah.
Yeah.
The overthrow of normalcy is the objective. Violence is just a means to an end.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And we bring the Embrace of Night into play to give weight to the character's isolation, to offer the character's dreadful purpose, and to lay bare their monstrous hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally,
Fuck yeah.
the salt of the earth. Even in the midst of social upheaval and occult mysteries, daily life must still go on. There are 5 million souls crammed into London's busy streets nowadays. Neighbours and strangers and friends, all with lives and troubles and desires and judgments all of their own. Our principles are to introduce everyday people of all kinds and give them names, worries, desires, and dignity, to explore the messy complexity of both specific people and society at large, and to ask compelling questions and build on the answers that others give. And our question here is, what feeling pulses through London's streets of late? So kind of if we get out our very big emotional palette brush, what's the overall mood of the city like?
I'm thinking this through, like the streets. There's flooding in the streets.
Yeah.
There's troubling dreams.
Yeah, it ain't good.
Is it rage? Is it despair? Is it disquiet? Is it hope? Like
is it blame?
Blame feels good. Blame feels very good.
Everyone's looking for someone to blame.
That feels great. There's that is scary to me, and like that immediately raised actual fear in my heart, which tells me that that's the correct option.
Yeah. Oh boy. All right. And we'll bring the salt of the earth into play to give life to the city, to offer the characters normalcy at a price, and to make them choose who they're going to be.
Love it. This rules.
All right. So, with that, we have our setting elements, and we have London. And so now we must answer the most basic of all kind of TTRPG questions. Who's my guy?
Who's my guy? We can now we both get to make a guy.
Who's my guy gonna be? I've played most of these guys. So Jeff, I think I'm gonna say you should pick a playbook that you're excited about, and then I will pick a guy to complement that guy.
Sure. So we have let me go from the top here. We have the Beast. We have the Gate, we have the Hunter, we have the Patron, the Scholar, and the Ward. Now, I have been, as I imagine a lot of people have been over the last 6 months, because I have been getting emails in my inbox, I have been reading the book Dracula. So I'm in that headspace as I kind of like sit, and I'm trying to think through which, like, I
can do the mapping if you want.
I'm doing a little bit of the mapping as I look through it, and I'm kind of just deciding what direction do I want to go in. Because I was also thinking, like, to foreground this a little bit and do a little bit of idle dreaming as I pick my playbook, and a little bit of like talking through. we had talked through a couple of the occasions, which are sort of these guided minigame scenes that we were going to play through. And then we'll see if we play through a couple more, depending on how long things last. But, like, we had said the two things that we're certain are going to happen is the two characters are going to go on a date, and then one of those two characters is going to have a fucked up supernatural encounter.
Yes. But maybe
so
even in that order. Maybe it'll be the other way around.
It could be the other way around. It could be, we can play, you know, see how we're feeling, but, like, there is something...
2 beats.
Yeah, those are the 2 beats, and I kind of like... what do I'm sitting here at the gate, and the gate does feel very good. You know,
the gate is a very good candidate for having a fucked up supernatural encounter.
And meeting someone else and, like, being like, hey, this is a thing that happened is a very good energy.
That's good radio.
That's good radio, and I think I'm going to go with the gate. So I'll read over the text of the gate.
Fantastic.
Where does it come from, this nameless power that guides your steps and troubles your dreams? You had a normal life once before it woke inside you, sprouting like a midnight weed. Now it coils within your heart and lurks in your shadow and whispers terrible truths in the dead of night as you lie in bed too scared to sleep. Where does it come from, and where will it lead you?
All right, so if you are the gate, what is my play here? I think there's 3 plays I could make here, Jeff, and I will pitch all 3 of them, and then I think I will kind of, you know, we can talk about which dynamic we think is fun. The most in keeping with the media inspirations of the game choice is the Beast. Because then we've just recreated Vanessa Ives and Ethan Chandler from Penny Dreadful, one of the source materials this game is based on. It's a great combo. It's a great duo. Strong werewolf, haunted person. Alternatively, the gate is a believer, whether they want to be or not. The scholar is not necessarily a skeptic, but the scholar has an intellectual relationship with all of this by choice. And I think that could be an interesting compare and contrast. I think also the gate is burdened by and cursed by experience and suffering. And I think the naivete of the ward, who has not seen any of this yet, could also be an interesting pairing.
Yeah, I really, you know what, like, because my brain was like, a really compelling pairing is the gate and the hunter in terms of, like, I have seen some things, and then somebody shows up and is like,
I've also seen those things, and they ruined my life.
I've seen some things. Here's my cowboy gun, and let's go shoot Dracula. But I like the ward as, like, this is a person being like, hey, I've seen things that have haunted me, and having to show that to someone. Like, the idea of the gate being sort of troubled and haunted by this knowledge, and them being thrust into that mentor position is super, super compelling to me.
Fantastic. All right. The ward. There's a window in your room that you like to stare out, and beyond it, the whole wider world. Families tied by love, not chained by duty. Freedom and adventure, not propriety and disapproval. Women who drink and fight and gamble, girls who kiss other girls, and people who get to choose their own names, their own clothes, their own lives. Any day now, you'll get your chance to join them. The ward is a sheltered individual dreaming of escape. Their powers and struggles are social, stifling, and empathetic.
Okay, so we've made our characters. We can go ahead. Would you like to introduce your character first, or shall I introduce the gate first?
What's the better order to do this in? I reckon you tell us about the gate first, and then I'll come in.
Sure.
You know, get the audience off guard, and then I'll come in and sucker punch them.
Sure, love it. So I've already talked about the gate. They are someone with sort of powers beyond that. They have sort of been cursed with these gifts, and they're seeing all of this ruin play out. I am playing Job Floodswell, Job, any pronouns, a name of ill omen, and a biblical name.
Oh my god.
Society sees Job as fragile and lonely, and I see myself as cursed and forbidden. I have fever bright eyes, like eyes that are a little too wide, that don't quite blink as much as you would think. Like, what's the... It's just like big saucer pan eyes and a wistful smile and frown lines. Very sweaty, I think, and I put down antique jewelry, a worn out rosary, and a sharp silk suit. What first awakened my gift and what freed its true power, I've chosen learned profane philosophy at my heathen school. I was an archivist. I've been thinking a lot about the archivist as a persona, and I love the idea of like an archivist who went where she wasn't supposed to, looked at things they weren't supposed to look at, and found knowledge that he was not meant to have, that pushed me towards these haunting dreams of ruin and spectral visitors in the night. And
you went to a school on the continent and they taught you philosophy. Ooh.
They taught me philosophy. And so now I have been haunted by stigmata and occult patterns and daydreams of bloody ruin and dream visits from terrible specters, all of which pushed me to go to the crossroads at midnight. And I don't talk about what happened there, but I have left with a gift. 2 relationships that are key in my community is the young homeless queer I feed whenever I am able, and a witch's ghost who gave me my heart's desire and helped me transition. This witch's ghost helped make me who I am, and so the best I can do is be that witch for the people in my community. It is the small kindness I can give back, and if I can have that connection with people while locking myself away so that the ruin that I see whenever I am left to imagine doesn't come to pass, that is an arrangement that works fairly well for me.
Yeah. I'm curious, did that aid from the witch's ghost come at a price? Or was it kind of like a fairly genuinely benevolent was it a benevolent act, or was it like a deal, I think it was the deal that pushed me towards, that was maybe the deal that pushed me towards the crossroads, right? I see.
It was the I learned some of this ritual that I was not meant to learn, and that meant, conversing with ghosts and meeting a witch that helped show me who I truly am, and in that pursuit pushed me towards pushed me to see how far this rabbit hole goes of I think it was maybe even I'd say an accidental positive effect, right? I don't think that my dealings with the witch were geared towards transition. I think that that kind of experimentation and finding my true self in that way was just a thing that came from,
Whoops.
Hey, there's all this power that you can shape the world into what you want it to be. And that had the natural side effect of going, well, I want to shape myself into something different. Hey, I can actually just do that, and I don't need magic to do it.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And for the audience, we keep gesturing rhetorically at quote unquote the gift, which is kind of shorthand for the kind of powers that are associated in Victorian Gothic literature with kind of mediums and and psychics and fortune tellers, right? So reading people's minds, seeing the future, talking to ghosts, exorcisms, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let me talk about the ward. I will be playing Dandelion. He, they, a name from a flower. Society sees me as desirable and a girl. I see myself as compassionate and too agreeable.
Mm-hmm.
I have Normally, I have like a very kind of composed public image. My family are quite, kind of rich and influential. So this composed mask of kind of proper slight disinterest. But when you crack, under the surface, I have a sunny smile that kind of blooms slowly across my face when I can't help it. I am wearing, I'm normally wearing kind of like simple linen kind of clothes cut for a girl. They smell sweet because, the house servants of my family, put flowers, pack them in with lavender. But over the top of that, I wear like a bulky coat to obscure those clothes and give myself a kind of more, quote unquote masculine kind of silhouette. 3 things that I dream of, wearing clothes that truly fit, making true friends, and not having to lie anymore. 1 shackle I have shed is my protective brother. I came out to him and managed to bring him around, so he is now on Team Dandelion and is the one who helps kind of sneak me out of the house. 2 shackles that still keep me trapped. 1, my overbearing father, that prick. We hate him. And also just in general, my family is a prominent family. I am relatively well known, at least among the upper echelons of society, under a certain name and a certain identity, and that is a thing that, is logistically difficult to shed. Yeah, and the 2 key relationships I have in my kind of queer community are the butch baker who always slips me an extra pastry, and my tutor, his smile hiding old grief, who tells me stories of the world's beauty.
So, we're each going to ask, we will ask 1 left and 1 right. Do we each want to ask each other 2 questions?
Ooh, there's a question. Let's start with 1, and then we'll see how we feel.
All right, that sounds good. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I've got 1 for you.
Go for it.
Oh, God, actually, I am going to ask you 2. And I am like, there's 2 of these. we got to do it. How have you suffered to support my dreams?
How have I suffered? I have suffered the mortifying ordeal of being known.
Oh,
I've suffered the
God.
mortifying ordeal of being known. I think that the stuff, like I said, that I see myself as forbidden, as closed off, as locked away from the world, and that was by choice. But I think that if you are the ward, I think that like in helping you, in helping Dandelion be who he is, be who they are, like there is a sense of, if I'm going to be the witch that helps you transition, that is going to require going out into the world, and that is going to require being seen, and that to me is suffering, because I have this gift that is the certain knowledge of bloody, disastrous ruin, and me putting myself into that position and allowing myself to move throughout social spaces is inviting that ruin onto people. So that is itself a form of suffering, is me interacting with the world is my own form of suffering.
Yep. Woof.
I'm going to ask you, how do you help me keep my gift in check?
Ooh, good question. I think there is a straightforward answer, and I think there is a more oblique answer. I think the straightforward answer is just I help do first aid on your stigmata.
Sure.
Sometimes these occult patterns are in places where it is not convenient for you to reach and bandage up yourself, and I help you with that because we're friends, and I'm probably, I imagine, one of very few people in your life who you are even vaguely comfortable having physical closeness of any kind with.
Yep.
And I think more obliquely, for whatever reason, I am never in your visions.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
I'm like a blank cipher as far as the bloody daydreams are concerned. And so being in my presence, you are always able to, when we are together, you can always tell whether you're having a daydream or not.
Yeah.
Because if you
Love
could
that.
see me walking next to you, it's real, and if not, it's not. And
Love
that
that.
ability
Love
to
that a lot.
differentiate is is good. Is this too sad? No, it's not. It's just the right amount of sad. Hey Job, what dark fate are you terrified will befall me?
Oh, what dark fate am I terrified will befall you? I mean, you said it yourself. It's the right level of sad. I am afraid that you are going to become me.
Ooh, boy.
You are protected. Like, you are protected from the gift. You are protected from the ruin that I see. And it is my fear that when this ruin drags me to hell, as I am so certain that it will one day do, it's not going to drag you to hell, and that means that whatever has given me this gift wants you to be here so that you can inherit it.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to have to go through what I have gone through. And what vision did we share when we first touched?
Ooh. I think it was a vision that has become increasingly common in the city of late in their dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think we saw the ruin of London, right? Like we saw we saw the Thames choked with blackberry vines and canes. We saw St. James's Park, all of the kind of manicured trees grown, twisted, and vast and feral. And, the grass kind of swept out of the park into the streets. Huge weeds, cracking the cobblestones and sprouting up through the alleyways. And, like, I don't know exactly what the tell was, but, like, this wasn't, like, the immediate aftermath of that disaster. This is, like, London 100 years on. And, like, there weren't any people at all.
Mm-hmm.
London was just a park of ruins.
Yeah. I love that. I love that a lot.
Yeah. And my lure, Jeff, for your reference is, whenever you make an effort to include me or show me London's wonders, you get a token.
And my lure to you, whenever someone invites you to read their fortune or look into their heart, whenever you invite me to read your fortune or look into your heart, you will gain a token.
Fantastic.
Okay. So with that, we start idle dreaming and start cooking up occasions. And I have an occasion that I want to pitch you immediately.
Okay.
Immediately.
Uh-huh.
Do you want Dandelion to get visited by a... because I was in my head, like, we spent so much of the early pre-character generation parts being like, it makes sense for us to have this character with the gift to have them visited. But I'm like, now that we've met these two characters, I feel like it is immensely exciting to me, the prospect of Dandelion being the one of the two of us that has been met by something.
Yeah, it's like I feel like there's like a fork in the road here, right? Like one of them is Dandelion is visited by the Embrace of Night, who says, "Don't you want to go ape shit? Don't you just want to fuck shit up?" Or, we lean into your kind of like into the dark fate that you fear will befall Dandelion, and like the Wicker ways and like the witch lineage that is the source of your gift comes to visit you and is like, yes, like absolutely we will take Dandelion someday, and like make some threats about that.
I mean, it could also be both. Like we could
and like there's a world in which we do 2 visitations, one each way, and then we have a rendezvous where we don't talk about it except in veiled metaphors.
That feels pretty good to me.
That feels pretty good to me. All right, paper, scissors, rock. I mean, who wants to go first?
I would love to go first.
As the visitee?
I'm trying to decide which do I feel like is more narratively compelling to go first. Okay, I'm gonna make a pitch to you.
Mm-hmm.
What if I think I would love for you to be the visitee first. I think I want to see that play out and see the night as it presents itself to kind of see which, because there's kind of two different visitations that I might want to wish upon sweet innocent Job, and I kind of want to see which direction your visitation goes to kind of push
how does it go for Dandelion first? Right, this is a good plan.
Yeah.
So yeah, in terms of like the arc of play, I'm just going to read from the text here. Unlike a life, all histories are by their nature incomplete, a patchwork of detail and elision in turn. Sometimes they paint in broad strokes, days or even weeks slipping by with only a spare account. Other times they luxuriate in specificity, recounting each and every one of the small and particular details which comprise a given event. So it is with our secret history too. In idle dreaming, we take the long view, sketching out events in broad strokes and musing together about the directions our characters' lives could take. We ask questions, offer suggestions, follow tangents, invent details, and let our genuine curiosity and interest lead us to compelling, dramatic ideas for moments that we want to explore in further depth. In vignettes, we walk in our characters' shoes for a time, deciding their actions, giving voice to their feelings, and speaking on their behalf. We narrate the way they move through London's shadowed streets, grounding our descriptions in sharply observed and evocative detail, and invite our fellow players into their emotional landscape. This, then, is the shape of our history, idly dreaming until our curiosity gives rise to questions that are too large, too fraught, or too exciting to be answered at a distance, resolving those questions in sharp, immediate, messy vignettes, then letting the momentum and consequences of those vignettes carry us back to idle dreaming, or onward into new moments worth exploring.
Love it. Love it.
And then the additional layer that this game kind of places on top of that is to kind of begin the game or begin a session and kind of like give us a bit of like oomph and kind of like launch into it. There are a set of kind of Firebrand style mini games, I suppose is the best way to think of the occasions. We can go investigate a thing. We could go to a party. We could hold a seance. But yeah, the ones that we're kind of interested in today are the 2-player ones. A visitation, a dialogue between a lonely soul and something crawled from out of the darkness, full of menace, temptation, and consequence, which we use when we want to invite our demons into plain view. And then the other one that we will be doing in a little bit, which is a rendezvous, a social engagement in search of deeper connection, inhibited by watchful eyes and full of unspoken feelings and hesitant touches, which we use when we want to explore our feelings for one another.
Love it. Love it.
So, visitation time. First, we've already done this step. Decide which character will experience the visitation and which other player will play the monster. To begin with, I will experience a visitation and you will play the monster. Shaking hands, well done, we did it. We have also decided which setting element will represent the monster. This is great. We're smashing this, Jeff.
We're crushing it. We're doing so great. We're crushing it.
Choose the vibe of your visitation, the tone and atmosphere you want. Is it a flirtation with darkness, a terrifying threat, a puzzling encounter? Choose one or invent your own. What do we think sounds fun here?
What do we think?
I'm feeling top of the list or bottom of the list.
I think so. I think those are the. I think given the embrace of the night that we set up, a flirtation with darkness makes the most sense.
Yep. Cool. Okay.
I think that given the embrace, I think it is always the invitation of don't you want to go ape shit.
Yeah. Okay. So a kind of like an intimate, seductive type vibe. All right.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah.
Third, work together to set the stage for the visitation. We might want to consider. Where am I visited? I'm like, my bedroom is a really obvious choice, but also sometimes the obvious choice is the right choice.
Sometimes you got to go with the obvious choice.
Yeah, sure. I think, it is like, it is early in the morning, like the house is not yet awake, but I have had a troubled night of sleep, because of insomnia. I think it's false dawn outside. So, it's starting to lighten out there, but the sun hasn't actually risen yet. And like, all of a sudden one of my windows is open and something is in the room with me. What monster has come to visit me? Jeff. What does the Embrace of Night monster look like? Or what is its kind of nature?
I'm envisioning this right now. I'm actually going back to the as a vignette begins, choose 2 to 3 options from the Embrace of Night setting element. I've got distorted voices immediately. I'm going to go with writhing shadows.
Ooh.
That's sick. I love that. Writhing shadows, distorted voices, and I'm thinking I'm gonna lean fully into this and say I'm gonna go with bleeding icons. Bleeding icons,
Sick.
writhing shadows, distorted voices. This is the specifics of this monster. This is almost this is almost a poltergeist of a monster of pure unbridled revelation.
Yeah. Sick.
Feels good. I'm excited.
How have they gained entry through the window? We already answered that one. What constrains their violence? What keeps this a visitation and kind of closes out the possibility of it turning into a fight?
I think that is the answer to the next question. What do they want from you? It is this ghost is not looking for a fight. This ghost is looking for you to embrace the gift as others have. This is looking for this ghost is this is an offer freely given. It is not a coercion. It is not a threat. It is a presentation of an offer.
Yeah, the ghost wants a thing from me. That violence just isn't going to get it in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And if you demonstrate violence, the ghost will take that as a no and depart. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, to start this occasion, I will describe a moment of vulnerability, and then you will intrude. During the visitation, you can make the following moves, and also moves from the Embrace of Night, if you care to. All of the moves from this occasion come with an underlying question, and anytime I answer yes to one of them, I gain a token. Hey, fantastic. We're token farming today. Let's go.
Let's go.
Once you have made at least 3 of those kind of like moves, either of us can end this occasion. You by bidding me farewell, me by bidding you begone, and then you get to make one last big spooky move, and then the occasion is over. All right. Yeah. So I think. Yeah. It's 4:30 a.m. in the morning. I think Dandelion heard the Night Watchman come by and cry, 4 a.m. of the night spell and all's well, and hasn't heard him cry 5 yet. And the half hour, 20 minutes it's been since has stretched out kind of interminably in the way that when you have insomnia and you've been sleeping in, scattered 5-minute stretches and waking up again kind of all evening, time just seems to kind of stretch out and lose all meaningful grip. Yeah, and I think, I think he is in a set of, it was once a nightgown, but he was taught to sew, as part of society's attempt to kind of make him, conform himself to the way it thinks he should be. And so I think he has sewn it into something more like a pair of shorts and like a tank top, like something gesturing in that kind of direction.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he just he's lying there in the dark.
And I think at that moment you start to hear the call that it is 5 o'clock.
Oh God.
You start, and then you hear a distance, like you hear the beginnings of a call of 5 o'clock that is interrupted by a horrid scream and the splashing and crashing of water outside of your window.
Yeah, and this is not a smart thing to do, but I think I immediately get out of bed and go to the window, and I fling the window open to see what's going on.
And you see the water of the Thames crashing and overtaking this night watchman, grabbing with an almost intentional fury, like a righteous fist, crash or grasping at this night watchman and pulling them into an undertow. And you see windows smashing, and you see specifically the limbs of trees and logs crashing through doors and windows, branches puncturing things. And you blink again, and you see nothing and hear nothing, and it is an empty street. And then you turn, and for a brief moment, you see a drowned night watchman behind you. And then you blink again, and they're not there, and you look to the side, and it is your friend the butcher, with the branch of a tree through their head, and you blink again and they are not there, and each of these faces is appearing to you moment by moment. And as you look around, you start to see bloody handprints on the walls and smashed glass and mud and the signs of disaster all around you, just appearing for a glance and then disappearing when you look back.
Yeah, and I think, I go to scream immediately, instinctively, but I'm so afraid that I feel my breath, catch in my throat. I think, no one in the period would understand this. I think Dandelion is, a little bit, what we would understand is kind of asthmatic. And so, I can't breathe. My heart starts to pound, and I can feel it, in my temples, behind my ears, in my wrists. And I think all I can think to do is retreat to the sanctum of my bed, which is, I think, it's like a 4-poster bed. It's got, and I draw the curtains, because if I'm in the dark, I can't see bad things.
And you draw the curtains, and you turn around, and your bedroom is immaculate, actually done up perfectly, as though your family's housekeepers have just been in to turn up the bed and the sheets, and everything looks great. And you can hear whispers, and muffled through the curtains, you can hear crashing and screaming and the sounds of blight descending upon a city. And you look, and you see a perfectly tended, beautiful, wonderful bedroom. And I ask the question, do I frighten you?
Yes.
As I show you.
Absolutely.
Great.
Are you kidding me?
Take a token.
Fantastic. All right. I will take a token. I'm going to use lactate pills as my tokens because they happen to be nearby.
Love it.
Yeah, and so, I Dandelion is freaking the fuck out. This is wild. I think, maybe I've seen Job, Job's maybe, read my future or whatever, once. And so, this is not totally, unprecedented for me, but, this is a lot. And so I think, it's just standing there trembling, heart pounding like a frightened rabbit, breath caught in the throat, and manages to squeak out hello? Hello?
And I'm going to, you say hello, and there is, a hand on your shoulder, and you turn, and it is, again, your friend, the butcher, who is you could help. You could stop all of this. You have the power and the resources. You just have to put them to use. You can stop all of this.
It's not
just
real.
It's
not happening.
It's not happening yet, and you could make sure that it never does. You just have to open yourself up to the possibility and bring your resources and blessings to bear to stop this. Do you accept? Halfway through this, I will say, halfway through this, they have turned into that night watchman.
Yeah, eyes wide with horror at the. I think I think Dandelion, like, believes that the gift is real in so much as, you know, clearly Job can, like, do some cool stuff, and clearly, you know, Job is, like, genuinely distressed by the ways in which, you know, they're haunted. I think Dandelion has internalized some of the, like, misogyny, like, directed at them, you know, by his father particularly, but, you know, by society writ large. And so there was very much a, like, you know, the first time I met Job, I touched, you know, her, and, like, we both had this vision, and I was like, oh, it was, like, that was just hysteria. That was just me being kind of, like, silly and a little kind of, like, you know, a little, like, caught up in the moment. I think this is the first time that he's let himself consider the idea that, like, it might be real. And that is deeply, viscerally frightening as someone who has never been under threat of material scarcity or violence. And so I'm going to make an inhibited move and gain a token and trust someone I really shouldn't. Yes, Jeff, I do accept.
Okay, so that's 2 tokens.
That's 2 tokens for
you
me.
get 2 tokens.
Power gaming.
So it's three tokens total, and I think, like, you accept, and suddenly your curtains blow open. You are actually blown. A gust of wind blows, and you look out and see what the embrace of the night is offering you specifically. And this is where I am going to break the game a little bit, if I may.
Of course.
Because suddenly, like, you are hearing these voices, and these distant voices of people who are being ruined by this onslaught of the coming wrath of nature. And you look out, and you no longer see the signs of this. You no longer see the signs of this, of nature striking back, of the sort of eldritch wrath of the Way of the Wicker. You see these, you know, it is just shy of dawn, but these electric lights are blaringly bright. They feel like they are burning your eyes, and gone are the sort of, like, cobblestone streets outside. It is pressed and paved, and it is gleaming and metal, and you look down, and you are dressed in a fine tailored suit, and you look back, and perfectly dressed in not even night watchman clothes, like military finery, is this night watchman standing there holding a pocket watch and looking out at you and saying, you are the voice, are the spirit of the coming age. You, with money and comfort, have the power to reshape all of this. The old ways are lashing out, and to put them down will require someone to accept not just a gift, but a purpose, a divine purpose in a world of desperation. Does any part of you agree? And I should reveal, I have switched setting elements.
Yeah, I noticed.
I have put down the embrace of the night.
I don't think that's breaking the game at all.
All right.
I don't think I do.
Okay.
I think, you know, Dandelion is a little too crushed by his smothering life for any part of him to really believe that, to believe that he could be that special, or he could be kind of like that much of a big deal. Yeah, and I think he says, like, my father would never let me. It's money, resources, they're all his. And my brother's after him.
Okay. Then I think that with 3 questions and that decision, tying into what we talked about earlier, I think that the ghost bids you adieu, but in doing so, I'm going to make one final move from the following list. Share a terrible secret or crucial answer, threaten them with tragedy, disaster, or damnation, or deliver an ultimatum, prophecy, invitation, or promise. I am going to deliver. You know what? Here's what we're going to do. Picking back up the embrace of the night, I am issuing an ultimatum and an invitation. You say that, and in an instant you watch a branch come through, grab this night watchman by the neck and rip them out of the room into this torrential flooding gate, and you are left, as you watch the walls, as you watch these bloody handprints emerge and the mud at your feet cake your ankles. You are left with two pieces of knowledge. You are left with the specter of modernity telling you in the back of your mind, not so much explicitly, but just like in dream logic, you will not be the last person that this offer is given to. And as you are left alone in the night, you are also given an invitation. But you denied it. And that means that you can fight it, or that you can become what it despises if you embrace the night and become what you are meant to be.
Yeah, and I think, like, I think, it leaves, everything goes back to normal, and I think the first thing that happens is Dandelion's, legs give out, and he, just, falls down, in a little kind of pile on the floor, because this was, a deeply terrifying, mortifying, awful moment. And so I think we get, a couple of beats of him just, having a panic attack, and struggling, to get his breathing under control, and I think by the time he has kind of got some amount of equilibrium back, it's, 6 o'clock of the night spell, and all's well, which is, I think, the final call of the final call. It's now day.
Yeah.
And I think he gets up and he goes to the bookshelf in his room and flips through it and finds, I think there is a battered old, children's kind of picture book even. It's got a faded green linen, kind of cloth bound cover. And I think he flips it open and we see an Arthur Rackham style illustration of an obscure fairy tale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think we just see him looking down at the image of the witch in this picture.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we leave this first visitation.
Yeah, and I think that, so I'm thinking I want to skip right to a rendezvous here. Is what I'm feeling. I know that we talked about also having a visitation. Yeah. I think having that in just both for time and for I like the idea that there's a visitation that we're not seeing, that maybe we just have in the back of our mind. We talk through of that certainty of the Wicker showing up and saying, we're coming for Dandelion. Dandelion will join us, and you can facilitate that, or you can get crushed out of the way. Is good, and I like the idea of going into the rendezvous with that.
Yeah, I think there is a caveat.
Sure.
In the offer made by the Wickerways to Job, which is we are coming to Dandelion. We're coming for Dandelion. You can help it happen, you can get in our way and fail, or if you really don't want it, you can swear yourself to us properly and make yourself our tool instead.
I like that. That's great. That rules.
It's gonna be one of you, and right now our preference is Dandelion.
Right now we'd rather it be Dandelion. You are weird.
All right, so a rendezvous. First, decide which characters will take part. Check. You've done that.
Mm-hmm.
Second, choose the vibe of your rendezvous, the tone and atmosphere you want. Is this to be a blushing first date, the renewal of a long acquaintance, an honest bearing of souls? Yeah, I don't know that any of these listed ones are kind of quite right. I think inhibited is the key word I keep coming to. Which
feels good. Inhibited feels good.
Is generally a touchstone for this occasion, just because, you know, you're in public and there's scrutiny, but like, I think it self-inhibited also.
Guarded, inhibited and guarded almost. It is
guarded is a really good word.
We're both feeling out if making this horrible decision is for the best.
Guarded and consequential.
There it is. Those are the ones.
All right. Work together to set the stage. Whose idea was this meeting? Is this maybe just like our standard, you know, like our weekly?
Oh, yeah. This is our weekly.
It was no one's idea.
I'm skipping to the next question. This is our weekly tarot read.
Yeah, of course. Fucking superb. Yeah, I think it is. I think it straddles the line between being platonic and being romantic, which our relationship does in many ways. Because I think, a key thing I want to like forward is like Dandelion is in a position where he is infantilized by society. You know, like Dandelion's like 20, probably.
Yeah.
Like, frankly, it's a miracle that, you know, his father hasn't like tried to marry him off yet.
And I kind of think like along those same lines, I think I've been envisioning Job as young, like also in her 20s, and I think that like, but I think that Job is, what's the opposite of infantilized? Like the opposite has happened to Job of like has been cast as the scary old crone, for lack of a better way to put it.
That if you're a fortune teller, you must be at least in your 30s.
Yeah. I think Job has received the reputation of being a frightening old crone, despite being in his early 20s. Like, I think we're of a similar age, we're of a similar place. Like, there is absolutely like an intimacy and even maybe an attraction there, but it is a sense of like, we are in these weird positions that we have been placed in.
Yeah, you just got a head start on both getting to be spooky and getting to be queer in a way that I didn't.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, so we're reading each other's tarot. Is this a secret? I think probably necessarily, at least on my end, yes.
I don't think from mine, but I think that I'm actually going to make an inhibition move.
Ooh.
For immediately to tie into this, an inhibited move of inviting, provoking someone's scorn, suspicion, or distrust. I think that it is a secret from you, but like my taking of clients is something that I do to incite suspicion in those around me as a way of keeping people at bay. It is something that like I welcome you, you know, I have you come in the front door of my house. I have you I put out the signs that there is going to be like a spooky reading.
Yeah,
even
right.
If your face is hidden and your identity is obscured, like I put it out there that I am doing some tarot reading and fortune telling and spooky things.
You're performing dangerous cursed person for the
keep people at bay. Like I am playing the part of the evil sorcerer to keep people at bay.
Hell yeah, sick.
So I'm gonna take a token.
What is the weather and atmosphere like? Do we think?
It's a great question.
I mean, it's on the list, and it was on our list. It's choked with mist, right? Like,
yeah, it's foggy, it's gray, it's a little rainy.
You know,
it's daytime, but it's dark.
It's the first time you normally I imagine you live in like a garret kind of like apartment. So like I think normally you like see me coming like from the window and are like always at the door. You know, I go to knock on the door and you like a spooky, you know, like, woo, you open the door right before I can. It's very theatrical. But I think this once there's so much fog you can't actually see anything out that window. And so I actually have to knock for the first time.
Yep. And I think
which
I
I think is
think
fun.
that I think there's something great there, and there's something great in terms of like you are made to wait for a moment, and that is sort of inherently a little anxiety inducing.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Particularly because I think we get the beat of like dandelion eyes darting. That's the only sign of anxiety. Their face doesn't betray it otherwise. But like, all they can think about is the ways in which being in this choking fog reminds them of being in that bedroom and not knowing if an unreal thing is about to happen.
Yeah. That's great. I like that. I really enjoy that.
All right. And then finally, we each invent a gift that we brought along for the other.
I am thinking, I think I brought you a very mechanical wristwatch or pocket watch. That's the word I'm looking for. I think I brought you a very mechanical pocket watch.
I think I know what I bought you. I think we can come back to it when I actually give the gift. So making this gift of a pocket watch somewhat ironic. I think I, of course, am slightly late.
Sure.
Getting here, I think it was hard to slip out this morning. I think some bill has been passed in Parliament, and my father was holding court about it at the dining table at breakfast for fucking half an hour. And of course, because his opinions about it are so important and weighty, and such good education for my brother and I, we weren't able to slip away. So yeah, I'm about 10 minutes late.
And I think like I am doing an inhibited move and cutting someone down with sharp words. When you arrive, I give you the gift, and it is this like very, capital M modern pocket watch. And I'm like, I was going to give you this, and I see that it is more important than ever. It's a pocket watch, so you can keep track of the time for your appointments.
I'm sorry, Job. It's father was in a mood this morning. It was hard to slip away. Anyway, shall we?
Shall we?
Yeah, and so
And I start like laying out the cards and lighting the candles and like going through the process.
Yeah.
And so with that, our rendezvous is underway.
Yeah, during a rendezvous, characters take turns freely making the following advances in any order, repeating if they choose. There's then a list of advances that we can make. Instead of responding with another advance, characters can always instead rebuff or deflect an advance, or excuse themselves and leave, cutting the rendezvous short. In addition to advances, we can also make missteps freely and fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, once we've done at least once between us we've made at least 6 of the kind of like steps of the dance above, either of us can end the occasion by either saying farewell or kind of asking, to extend it into another kind of more private, more intimate engagement, dinner, dancing, the theater, a private drink at home, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a little coda, and then we will leave it there.
Okay. Yeah. I am going to make the first advance.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you about something I know that you're interested in as I'm laying out these cards. We've been doing this for some time now. This is an ongoing arrangement. But I think, like, with a raised eyebrow, Job is laying out the cards and is like, so I never asked what brought you into this world. I never asked what made you interested in matters beyond the veil, if you'll forgive me putting on the role for a moment.
Yeah. And I think I think Dandelion like makes a thoughtful noise. I suppose it's natural to be interested when you live, and I kind of like, with my eyes and rhetorically gesture at the fact that we're both queer.
Mm-hmm.
When you live outside, other veils. Plus, I won't deny the fact that my father would be absolutely furious if he knew I was dabbling in heathen superstition like some commoner.
A deep chuckle. I'm spending a token for a transgressive move.
Ooh.
I think a deep chuckle. Yes, I suspect opinions on your dabbling in the supernatural would be most Intensely gathered, and I am sensing something unseen or obscured.
Yeah, and I think you have a flash of, I think this happened at some point in between, like the first time we met and, today. But like me walking past my father's like parlor as he was having, he had, a bunch of men crowded in their kind of like fancy suits, drinking brandy, smoking cigars, playing cards, and some gossip about a bill that one of them is putting before Parliament that my father is kind of like, who owns, I think, newspapers, among other things, is going to be kind of like doing a popular, doing a favorable story about. But the bill is in favor of criminalizing fortune telling on the grounds that it's definitionally fraudulent behavior. Because, of course, the supernatural isn't real.
Of course. I trying to decide if I want to pull on it in advance. I think I do.
I think I might have one.
Go for it.
First. I think you've like, you finished shuffling the cards. I find an innocent reason for us to touch and let my hand linger. I think I reach out and like lay my hand lay my hand on yours, my fingers like brush the back of your hand as I take the deck from you. And I think I'm like, I had an interesting night, Job.
I think I'm
let's try
making a
it
misstep.
differently.
I think I'm making a misstep immediately.
Okay.
I am stumbling into territory far more loaded than I realized.
Uh-oh.
I think the second that we touch, there is a prick, and we both feel like we have been stuck by a thorn. And we peel back, and there is just like the faintest scent of ivy and pine in the air, and I look up just in time to see a small number of vines creeping around a window where there's no, not even access to the outside. Like there's like an inside window and there's vines creeping around it. And I look at my hand and I look. So you did. Tell me more.
Yeah, and I like riffle shuffle, as I've seen you do like 100 times. And I like, set the deck on the table and I'm like, is that your question?
I'm trying, what am I gonna, I think I lean back a little bit and I, you know what? I'm taking an inhibited move. I'm taking a token. I think that you kind of smilingly say that, and I am overcome by visions and longings of, like, you've seen this before of, like, my eyes are now fully wide, and my fingers are twitching as I'm, like, watching you, and my side of my mouth is twitching, is ticking just a little bit, and I'm, like, eyeing out of the corner of my eye. I'm seeing floodwater bubble in from the outside door, and I'm feeling, I'm feeling my face like brushed with dirty wind and like bits of sand and dirt and glass in the wind of like a dirty alleyway gust of wind, and I'm blinking and I'm twitching and I'm watching.
Oh, let me, Jeff, let me offer you one more little like visual motif here, which is I think you can see where I have my my hand like resting on the top of the deck. The pattern on the back of the cards is like in the patterning, moss, like illustrations of moss is starting to consume the actual pattern drawn on the back of the cards and is starting to like wash the back of the card green from where I'm touching.
Love that. And I kind of, I think at that moment, I invite you to take my hand. I think I put forward my hand on top of the deck, and I'm like, tell me hand in mind, tell me everything that you saw last night. Do not leave out a single detail. This is one of my moments. This is like there's that moment of intensity and then that forced drawback.
Yeah, and I I think I managed to catch the tip of your pointer finger and squeeze it gently as you're pulling back. I carefully tease you gently and with great fondness. I think, instead of just directly answering the question, I think I do the full rigmarole of I deal out 3 cards on the table. And I turn the first one over, and I'm the Hanged Man.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, it's not the Hanged Man. I turn one over and I'm the Hermit. And it is, and maybe this is only true to the eyes of your vision, but you don't know that because I think at this point I am now, whatever, kept me from appearing in your visions is no longer true. So you are having a vision, but I am in it. So it must be real. But the Hermit card in the deck doesn't look like the Hermit anymore. It's the figure of me in my bed.
And I think as you flip that card and you say the Hermit, I whisper, even before you fully flip it, I kind of whisper barely noticeably under my breath, claiming my desires and gift as part of myself. It's the Hermit.
Yeah.
There is an acknowledgement of I know exactly what card you're about to flip. I know the next 3 cards you're going to flip. I know what that fortune is going to say.
Yeah, and so I think the Hermit, isolation, insight, seeking answers. I couldn't sleep. You know how I get. And I think you notice for the first time kind of how deep the the bags under my eyes are.
Mm-hmm. You have a knack for this.
It's
like you've been doing this for years.
And then, and I turn over the second card. And it's the Tower.
Of course it is.
and it's the Tower. It's the Tower of London, but it's consumed by vines and ivy and choked with moss. And I saw it again. And I look at you very directly. I think this is probably the first time we've ever acknowledged, the existence of that shared vision that we had. And a voice, I saw it again and it showed me disaster, and it showed me ruin, and it showed me terror. And I was afraid. And then, and I flip over the third card, and I think it is the Lovers. And I think it looks like me standing at a crossroads, and down one path is that vision of London in ruin, and is you. And down the other path is that gleaming, modernized London, all glass and steel and chrome, and the handsome soldier. Both of you holding out a hand for me to choose.
And there's a moment where I look at this card and I look up and I see the creeping vines and I hear the grinding of gears out of the window, which is a sign and a symbol that I've never heard before in these visions. Distant, far from my domicile, but present in a way that I've never noticed. And I let slip a compliment that I did not intend. It seems everyone sees in you what I see in you.
I blush faintly. And I think I'm going to entrust you with a secret I've shared with very few. Because I think now that we've danced around it sufficiently, Dandelion is kind of, feels able. And so, I think he says, the future came to me and spoke to me, and it told me I was special, and it told me I was unique, and it told me I could forestall all of this. All we need do to to pull out the weed of the past is to pave over that road and choke out the parks and build taller and higher until the smokestacks fill the sky. And no one remembers what flowers smell like or the touch of the wind.
And I share a secret with you that I have shared with few. I've had this talk many times before, not of the future, but of the past, of the old ways. And I'd be lying if I said your name hadn't come up in many of those conversations. I think as I came to a crossroads once upon a time and it changed me, I think we have come to a crossroads ourselves. And
yeah, I think I smile. That slow smile spreads across my face, but for once it isn't like the sun breaking forth. It's kind of rueful and a little bit bitter.
Mm-hmm. And I think there is a moment where Job looks up and that rueful sun is overtaken by clouds, and it is as though night befalls in the middle of the day. But what if there was another option? Care to join me in the reading room? I have some books that you might find fascinating.
Yeah, and I think I stand up from the table. And I think I pull a wrapped package out of one of the pockets of my big, kind of like ragged baggy coat.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't imagine that we see you open it, but it is the right size and shape and thickness. I think the audience can all tell for themselves that it's the book I was reading earlier this morning.
Yeah, love it.
Which is my gift that I've brought to this rendezvous for you, because I've already last night I already made my choice.
Yeah.
And I'm going to spend a token to tell someone what I need or want from my relationship with them. And I think I lean in and I kiss, I press a chaste little kiss to the corner of your mouth. And I say, I need you to understand that I am not some fragile flower who needs to be protected. And that includes the choices I will make. And if I'm going to be free, if we're going to be safe, I will need to deal with my father. And there is you can hear the capital D, deal.
Mm-hmm.
And how I choose to do that is my choice.
I am also going to spend my last token, and I think this is our closing note, to claim far more of my gift as part of myself. And I stand up, and for a moment there is a moment where we are fully, I take your hand and I put it to my cheek, and there is a moment where we are fully in that moment, and you see vines creeping on windows, and you see outside gears grinding, and you feel the heat of a boiler room just out of the window, barely kept in check by the outside windows. And I say, you are correct. And then it is time for us to figure out where both of us truly fit into all of this. But first, a drink.
Yeah, little soft little laugh. And I think we both, we both leave the room through the door, into your kind of actual private sitting room, not where you see your clients. And I think that's probably kind of and that's all, curtain down. That's all she wrote.
Yep. That's game.
Well, there's one last little thing that we do at the end of a rendezvous. So each of us gets to say how our character assumes the other feels about us now.
I assume that Dandelion sees me as a little bit of a means to an end.
Oof.
I think that and I think that personally, I'm thrilled. I think it is as much as I do genuinely care for and love Dandelion, it is a sense of He wants me to be the tool that turns him into a weapon that allows him to strike back against the people that are trying to exploit them, as well as the people in his life that are trying to repress him. If I can forge him into that weapon, then he can protect himself against me.
I assume, who knows if it's true or not, I think Dandelion assumes that that Job is afraid of him. Not so much of what he is in this moment, but like, you know, he is a seed and that seed is sprouted now, and like, what will that, like, what will the tree look like, right? Is the operative question.
Love that.
Yeah, and we don't have any other players with us, Jeff, so I think we both get to do this next step ourselves.
Cool. Love it.
Yeah, each character who did not participate, or in this case us, describes some tragedy or haunting that was happening nearby, unbeknownst to the characters.
There was a massive there was an explosion of a factory was dynamited. Not just exploded, not just anything. A factory was a factory was dynamited just before it opened. I think people were starting to open the factory when things just started to go off. Like, it just started to explode.
Yeah, and I think that if you looked out the window, and you could see through the fog, I think there is the distant glow of witch fire.
Ooh, love that.
Like a bonfire out on Blackheath Moor.
Love it. And that's game.
And that's the game.
Fuck yeah, this ruled. I'm so happy this was a blast.
Industrialization sucks.
Industrialization sucks. It's bad. This was good. This game, though, rules.
Yeah, this was really fun. This was great.
I had so much fun playing this game. This made my entire day. I'm so happy.
What a delight, Jeff. Thank you for doing this with me.
Thank you so much for playing this game with me. Thank you for coming on the show. This was an absolute treasure. So, real quick before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
Yeah, so people can find me in most places, social media-wise, which is to say on Tumblr, on Twitter, though it's dying, on X, which is dying now. I think also on Blue Sky at Wildwoods Games, which is kind of the best place to keep up with me. And there you will probably find in a pinned post, and also, I presumably in the, comments of the post where you found this podcast episode, Grand Guignol is crowdfunding. Probably at the moment, as you hear this.
Probably, yeah.
Possum Creek, the publishers of Sleepaway and Wander Home and Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast and other great games, are working with me to publish not just this one historical horror game about Britain and industrialism and queerness and community, but two games, Grand Guignol, the London Gothic mouse, and then its cousin from the country, Harvest, the folk Gothic mouse. And Harvest is a game about a remote island community and a sacrifice that must be made, and the terrible weight of necessity, using the same kind of underlying system as this.
Fuck yeah, we love it. This was fantastic. Thank you so much for playing this with me. I am over the moon. And for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take a future me.
Thanks, Past Me. And thanks again to Luke for coming on the show. That game was just, the world that we built was so vivid and evocative. And then getting to play those little scenes in it was just, fuck, this was great. I loved every bit of this experience. I'm so happy about it. I am beaming with how much I enjoyed that game. Please go check out the Harvest and Grand Guignol backer kit. You can find a link to that in the show notes. And be sure to follow Luke on Twitter at Wildwoods Games. Then while you're on Twitter, follow us at Party of One Pod. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/PartyOfOnePodcast. Find us on TikTok at Party of One Podcast. Find us on Tumblr at Party of One Pod. Subscribe to our newsletter at buttondown.email/Party of One Podcast. And join our Discord community at bit.ly/Party of One Discord. If you enjoy the show, there's a lot of ways to support it. You can support us financially at patreon.com/JeffStormer or ko-fi.com/JeffStormer. You can give us a nice iTunes review, shout us out to a friend, give us some love on social media. You can buy some Party of One merch at bit.ly/PartyOfOneMerch. Or, if you're looking for more great podcast content, you can check out All My Fantasy Children, which is a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast that I make with my best friend in the world, Aaron Catano Saez. We take a listener-submitted prompt and spin it into an original fantasy character, populating a shared universe one story at a time. You can also check out Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast, which is an actual play about a heartless witch, a cozy house, and the many people making their homes inside. Both of those you can find wherever you get your podcasts. Party of One is, as always, produced and edited by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. Music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Ran featuring the D&D Sluggers, and the Party of One logos by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, coming on the show as a guest, or about press coverage of the show, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And, unless I am mistaken, that is all we do here. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.